What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to Game Day with Trey. Of course, this is your host, Trey. And today, we're going to talk about this NFL Sunday afternoon matchup between the Atlanta Falcons and the New Orleans Saints. All right, so this game's set to be played September 29th, kickoff 1 p.m. East Coast time in Atlanta, Georgia. All right. Line right now is Atlanta by 3, over under 41.5. All right. Some places you can get it at 41. Some other places you have seen it at 45. And the line was at one point in time Atlanta minus 1.5. All right. So with all that being said, guys, and knowing that there's been some line movement in this game, and knowing that this is a divisional rivalry matchup right here, the NFC South, let's go ahead and let's talk about this real quick. So the Saints opened up the year with a couple of impressive offensive performances. Nolans kicked off things with a 47-10 blowout, went over the Panthers. You know, they should have done that. And then they came and they backed that up with a 44-19 road victory over the Dallas Cowboys, which at that point in time, nobody thought they should do, but they actually should have done. Okay, so they moved to 2-0. And then in game 3 versus the Eagles, okay, they laid an egg. They came out. Saints were up 3-0 heading into the final quarter. All right, when the dust settled, and however, Nolans had a 15-12 loss. All right, Derek Carr threw for 142 yards, 1 touchdown and 1 pick. Top receiver was Chris Olave with 86 yards and a score off of 6 grabs. Now I'm gonna be honest with you guys. What hurt them in that game is the fact that the Eagles weren't getting any pressure on the quarterback. Okay. Because at the end of the day, when Derek Carr is not pressured, he actually is a bum. Like, that's what you see. What you all saw last week is what happens when Derek Carr doesn't get pressured, right? He only got sacked one time, all right, last week for 12 yards. All right, there was absolutely no pressure on that man. All right, when it came to that, all it did is back everybody up, and he has a problem with that. Okay, and that leads to, yes, they went 6-13 on third down, but they passed the ball 7 times on first down and ran the ball 5 times. So they had an even split. The problem was that he just was jacking wreck in the downs, man. Like, you can't lose. First, you can't lose the time possession battle. Second off, you can't let Saquon Barkley run all over you like that. Third off, like, you can't only get 12 first downs for 219 total yards as a team. That's just not going to win in the NFL, not a winning recipe, guys. All right? So when you look at Atlanta, what's going on with them and why they look the way they look. So on their side, their year began with a home matchup versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Falcons ended up losing that one 18-10. Then game 2, Atlanta's first victory. That one came down to a 22-21 road affair versus the same Philadelphia Eagles. Okay, where I believe they won that one. Then after that, you know, they come up against the Chiefs, and you know what's going to happen when you play the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. All right, even though the Falcons were up 14-13 by the break, and Atlanta was only able to find 3 more points in the second half. All right, in that 22-17 loss. And Kirk Cousins managed 230 yards with a score and an interception. But Drake London caught 6 balls for 67 yards, man. Like, the only thing you can say about the Atlanta Falcons at this point is this. They got outcoached in that game. Like, it's not their complete fault that they lost that game in the manner they lost that game. Okay, we're talking about Andy Reid versus Raheem Morris. And Raheem Morris isn't ready for that league of coaching yet. I mean, he's not ready. He's not at that point. He did put his team in the best position possible. You know, Kirk Cousins went out there and went 20 for 29. But, you know, you're playing against Patty Mahomes. And when you're playing against Patty Mahomes and playing against Andy Reid, anything is possible. Like, anything. Okay? Like, they are going to come out there and they're going to give you your best shot. And something you can't do as a team, you can't go 2 of 9 on third down as a team. Okay? You can't do that. You can't come out here and pass the ball 11 times and run the ball 4 times, okay, on first down when you're playing Andy Reid. Notice Andy Reid's split was 13 passing first downs to 9 rushing first downs, man. Like, you can't come out here and have 4 penalties neither, okay? Like, these are the reasons that Atlanta lost that game. Some things you can't do in the NFL versus certain coaches, and that's some of the stuff that you can't do. All right, you definitely don't want to lose that time possession, 34 minutes and 57 seconds to 25 minutes and 3 seconds. That means that they just were hogging the ball on you at one point in time. All right, so looking at the injury report coming into this game, all right, Chris Olave is questionable tendon and hamstring injury. Cedric Wilson, he's questionable with the ankle injury. Alvin Kamara, he's questionable dealing with the ribs. Kendre Miller's managing a hamstring. Of course, it's the usual suspects out here, guys. Fuaga, he's questionable battling that back. DeMarco Jackson, he's dealing with the calf injury. Landon Young, he's missed the previous game with the foot injury. Unknown if he'll be out there Sunday. Taysom Hill's questionable. He missed the previous game with that chest injury, and it's unclear if he'll be out there on Sunday, man. And then if you look over at Atlanta, of course, Matthew Judon's probable, dealing with that hamstring injury, expected to play on Sunday. Bijan's probable, bothered by a shoulder injury, but that young man will be out there trying to run people over and juke everybody out. And then, of course, Jace McClellan, the backup, he's bothered with the knee injury and unclear if he'll be out there. He is questionable, guys. So when you're looking at these two teams, you got to look at the matchup stats first. And with that being said, New Orleans is averaging 34.3 points per game. That's second best in the NFL. And Atlanta is averaging 20.3 points that they give up per game. That's the 13th best defense in the NFL. So they're only giving up 20.3 points to opposing offenses. But how's that happening? So for New Orleans, they convert 52.94% of their third downs. That's number 2 in the NFL, whereas Atlanta has the 26th worst in third down defense in the NFL. They allow teams to convert 45.45% of the time. That is the 26th worst, guys. And then if you look at the red zone, at New Orleans, they get in the red zone, they're going to hit you in the mouth and score a touchdown. Box check, 75% of the time. That's the third best in the NFL. But then when you look over at the inverse, you look at Atlanta's defense. Atlanta's defense is only allowing teams to score touchdowns 36.36% of the time, guys. So that's 10th best in the NFL as far as defense in the red zone is concerned. They're only giving up 1.3 touchdowns a game to teams, whereas New Orleans is actually scoring 4 touchdowns. So that's the number 2 offense as far as scoring touchdowns versus the number 5 defense as far as allowing touchdowns, guys. So this is a very intriguing matchup there, but we'll see how that happens and how that breaks down. Now, if you look at it in the inverse, you look over at Atlanta. Atlanta's only scoring 16.3 points per game. That ain't gonna get it. That's 26th in the NFL. And New Orleans is only giving up 14.7. So they playing defense out there, boy. You just got to know and understand how you can execute against them. And I believe that there's opportunity for Atlanta to execute in this game. They do have Bijan Robinson, which is a Saquon Barkley type running back. I believe he's better than Saquon in some ways. They just he hasn't been utilizing that in that fashion or manner yet because he shares the backfield, which is a good thing. Longevity for the young man's career. So if we're looking at it just holistically, right? If Atlanta's only converting 22.2% of their third downs, it's 29th worst in the NFL, and New Orleans is letting the people convert 35.14% of the time. That's 17th worst in the NFL. Okay, then that leans advantage somehow, some way to Atlanta. Okay, because it gives an opportunity for them to improve on that. But I believe New Orleans has got the better defense, man. It comes down to the play calling. That's what's really going to be on this game for Atlanta if they're going to be in this game. Look at red zone. Red zone, 44.4% of the time Atlanta scores a touchdown. That's 22nd in the NFL. But they're going against the third best defense in the red zone. They only allow touchdown 25% of the time, guys. They only allow 1.3 touchdowns a game. That's 5th in the NFL. And Atlanta only scores 1.7. That's 22nd in the NFL. So the problems are going to come in when Atlanta comes out here and tries to pass the ball against this team, man. New Orleans pass defense is virtually where the opportunity is for Atlanta. Atlanta has to capitalize on that. Atlanta might only be averaging 199.7 yards a game in the passing game, 19th in the NFL. But they have to figure out a way to do better in this game, because they're not going to be able to run the ball like that. What happened with Saquon, I don't think that's going to happen again like that. And on top of what happened with Saquon not happening again like that, I just don't honestly believe that Atlanta's offensive line is as good as Philly's offensive line. Like, I don't. So, since I know that Atlanta's offensive line isn't as good as Philly's offensive line, then I don't anticipate them being able to do the same thing that Philly did. Now, they have opportunity for it. Yes, true indeed. But at the end of the day, I just don't see that happening. Now, especially with the way that I anticipate for Atlanta to be able to get some pressure on Derek Carr, which is not a good recipe to do, obviously, because last week when you didn't put any pressure on him, guess what he did? He came out there and threw a wobbly duck out there, man. You know what I mean? Like, that's what happened. All right, so when you're looking at these two teams, right, and you're looking at the fact of how Atlanta comes out and tries to run the ball, well, Atlanta's rushing offense is middle of the pack, 18th, 17th, and everything. Well, like I said, New Orleans is top 5, top 8, you know what I mean, defense against the run in the NFL. So, and then we look at what Atlanta does against the run. Well, they're one of the worst in the NFL. They allow 150.3 yards per game, and guess what? New Orleans is averaging 153 yards per game. That's 6th best in the NFL, guys. So 6th best rushing attack versus the 28th worst, or the 31st worst as far as how many rushes they allow, 37 total, or even like, it's not a good sign. Not a good sign for Atlanta at all when it comes to Alvin Kamara getting off on these boys, man. So when you look at the stat split, you look at how they've been looking there in the last 3 games. In the last 3 games, we already went over how New Orleans is averaging 34.3 points per game and only giving up 14.7, and then Atlanta's only scoring 16.3 and giving up 20.3, right? But if you look in this situation, New Orleans is even better, man. New Orleans is scoring 44 points a game on the road, and they're giving up 19. Whereas at home, Atlanta's only scoring 13.5 points per game, and they're giving up 20 still. So, like, advantage New Orleans in this situation, whether you're looking at whether you're looking at situationally, how they've been playing so far this season. Yeah, so we know New Orleans is 2-1, Atlanta's 1-2 straight up. Okay, but on the road, Atlanta is 1-0, guys. All right, and I mean Atlanta, but New Orleans is 1-0, and at home, Atlanta's 0-2. Okay, and then when you look against the spread on the road, New Orleans 1-0. Okay, and as a home team, Atlanta 0-2. Just saying, guys. And then when you look over-unders, okay, over-unders has been 2 to the over, 1 to the under, and Atlanta's had all 3 unders, right? So if that would mean that both their home games went under, but when New Orleans plays on the road, it's gone over for them because they're going to put points up. So the question is, will this Atlanta defense be able to stop this offense, man? Well, in the last 10 games that these teams have been out here, okay, New Orleans is 6-4 straight up, 6-4 against the spread, and 5 to the over, 5 to the under. Whereas, and if you're talking about who they got coming up next, so they got Kansas City, Tampa Bay, and then Denver coming up next in the next 3 games. So it's definitely not a look-ahead spot, but this is when their season starts to really crank up, guys. And then when you're looking at Atlanta's 4-6 in their last 10, 4-6 against the spread, and 3 to the over, 7 to the under. They're literally a team that has not played well in their last 10 games, let alone played up to the standard of what everybody thought they were going to play this season. They were expected to have at least 2 wins right now, man. And sitting at 1-2, that is not looking good for them. Especially with it being all 3 unders, meaning your defense was decent out there, decent enough, and you still didn't come out there and putting points up. Now, head to head, New Orleans runs this series 7-3. New Orleans beat them once last year, and Atlanta beat them once. So the home team won last year 24-15, and then the home team won in New Orleans 48-17, which started New Orleans' long streak of scoring high points with that game right there on January. All right, and that line was -3. Over under was set at 42, guys. So that game was New Orleans and the over. Okay, but like I said, they're 7-3 against straight up against them. It's 5-5 against the spread, and 4 to the over and 6 to the under in their last 10 games, guys, that these two teams have matched up out there. Prior to that 48 to whatever game, 48 to 17 game, it was 2 unders in a row. So they usually go over, then 2 unders, and then over, and then 2 unders. If you look, all right. Or they'll go 3 unders and they'll match that with some overs. Then they'll go under. Now this is probably gonna go over, guys. Something crazy like that. You see little trends and things. When you're talking about trends, you got to understand New Orleans Saints have hit the second half money line in 10 of their last 13 games. That's 44% return on investment. And Atlanta has hit the third quarter game total under in 6 of their last 8 games at home. New Orleans Saints have hit the first half game total over in 14 of their last 20 games. That's 33% return on investment. And Atlanta has hit the fourth quarter money line in 6 of their last 8 games at home, guys. It's 32% return on investment. Now, when you're looking at how these two teams kind of match up out here and what's going to happen, and is this expected to go one way or the other, right? Definitely look towards Younghoe Koo over 1.5 field goals. Definitely loving that. I believe that's gonna come through. He's one of the most consistent kickers in the game for me. As far as the total is concerned, each of the Saints' last 9 games played as underdogs on the East Coast have gone under the total points line. 8 of the Falcons' last 9 September games against NFC South opponents, though, have gone over the total points line. And 4 of the last 5 Sunday games at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, okay, have gone under the total points line. So it's definitely some opportunity here, guys, if you're just looking at trends. Of course, Kyle Pitts has scored a touchdown in 4 of the Falcons' last 5 games as home favorites. Ray McCloud, he's recorded 22-plus receiving yards in 4 of the last 5 regular season appearances. And Tyler Algier has recorded 45-plus rushing yards in 4 of the Falcons' last 5 games following a loss. All right. When you look on the other end, okay, well, we don't know who's going to be out there as far as whether Taysom Hill is going to be out there or not, but we do know that Jamal Williams has recorded 33-plus rushing and receiving yards in each of the last 11 Sunday appearances with his team as road underdog. We also do know that Alvin Kamara ranks tied for first in the NFL for touchdowns this season, and he's a dog receiving plus rushing yards. So I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I'm leaning towards the Saints here, but you could make a case for either way. Both teams need a good bounce back offensively after what's been going on last week. All right, and in any case, the Saints notched just 219 yards, 130 passing, and 12 first downs against the Eagles. Defensively, New Orleans posted a couple of takeaways, but also gave up 20 first downs, 6.9 yards per play, and 460 total yards. As for Atlanta, they put up 311 on 229 against the Chiefs, but they only went 2-9, like I said, on third down tries, guys. All right, so the Falcons wilted under the pressure like we all knew they would, because they weren't going against a better coach. Okay, so at the end of the day, I like the better effort coming out of New Orleans in this one. I take the Saints plus the money, and I do like the under. I'll probably buy a couple points there, maybe get it up to 44, but I do like Younghoe Koo over 1.5 field goals made in this game, guys, at the bare minimum. But anyway, y'all let me know what y'all like in the comments. Please like, share, subscribe. I hope this information helps you. I'm going to see you at the window. Peace.